Christopher Nolan's next movie doesn't come out for 6 more weeks, but people are already paying hundreds of dollars for a ticket. There are only 24 theaters in the country that can show the film the way it was shot, entirely on IMAX film cameras. It's the first major Hollywood feature in history to do it, and the seats are already gone. You can find opening weekend tickets for IMAX 70mm showings of the Odyssey listed for up to $1,000 on eBay. That's concert-level resale for a film that's not even out yet. But what if I told you this was all part of the plan for the studio behind it? I'm Matt Johnston, and this is your weekly movie reset. Everything you need to know to stay up to date with the industry in 15 minutes or less. If that sounds useful, hit subscribe, and I promise I'll respect your time. This week, the Odyssey ticket frenzy is just the surface of a much bigger story about the studio that's quietly winning the war for Hollywood's best directors. We've got a good box office to go through, some big stories, and Disclosure Day opens on Thursday. Let's get into it. Last week, on June 4th, 6 weeks before the movie even opens, Universal and IMAX dropped pre-sale tickets for their premium large format screenings. That's IMAX 70mm, Dolby, and Prime at AMC. The AMC website immediately crashed. Virtual queues stretched past an hour, and when people finally got through, the seats were already gone. For context on the format, IMAX 70mm is roughly 3 times the resolution of standard film. And for the Odyssey, every frame will maintain the expanded IMAX aspect ratio. That means no letterboxing, no black bars at the top or the bottom. This has never been done at this scale before. No one literally had to have special camera rigs built to make this happen, and he shot over 2 million feet of film. Premium large format pre-sales for the Odyssey were the highest AMC had seen for any major studio since 2022, and the best year to date for the theater chain. A wild pre-sale like this might be surprising for some, but let me tell you who's not surprised: Universal Studios. The backstory here matters. Nolan spent nearly 2 decades making films with Warner Brothers. The Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, Dunkirk, Tenet, almost his entire filmography up to that point. Then in 2021, in the wake of the pandemic, Warner Brothers made the impulsive decision to release their entire theatrical slate directly on HBO Max, theaters and streaming at the same time. And oh yeah, they didn't consult Nolan or other directors. Unsurprisingly, this pissed Nolan off. He publicly called HBO Max the worst streaming service, and also described the move as a real bait and switch. So he took his talents elsewhere, and after a competitive bidding war that included Sony, Paramount, and even Apple, Universal swooped in and signed Nolan. His first film with his new studio, Oppenheimer, which of course would go on to win 7 Oscars, including Best Director and Best Picture. In addition to an entire dump truck of money, Universal offered Nolan what Warner Brothers took from him: the full theatrical experience. And that matters to Nolan more than almost anything. This isn't new to Universal either. Building and maintaining trust with top-tier directors has been a part of their playbook for decades now. Spielberg has been there since the beginning. His first contract, his first film, was Universal. His production company, Amblin Entertainment, has been on their lot for 50 years. So you've got Nolan, Spielberg, and a handful of other talented up-and-coming directors all under one roof. But they're not there by mistake. They're there because Universal made a deliberate and strategic bet to invest in directors and the theatrical experience, at a moment when some other studios are still trying to figure out how they can shorten the window to get to streaming faster. Give great filmmakers a reason to trust you, and it won't be surprising when great movies follow. Universal understands this, and it's how they signed Nolan and why they aren't surprised by $1,000 movie tickets. I want to hear from y'all in the comments. If you ran a movie studio, would you invest in directors or more recognizable franchises? Let me know in the comments. Now let's get to the box office. All right, pretty solid weekend. Domestically, we hit 183 million, and the #1 spot, as predicted, was taken by Scary Movie. This isn't very surprising to me just because it had the big brand name, the recognizable franchise. I haven't had time to see it yet, but this was the largest opening for the franchise in its 26-year history. It was also the best domestic start for a pure comedy since 22 Jump Street, which came out in 2014. The Wayans are back, and Paramount has to be pretty happy about it. I'm curious what y'all think about this one though. Was Scary Movie a sign of a potential comedy comeback, or is it just nostalgia playing into it? Let me know what you think in the comments. In the #2 spot, we have Masters of the Universe at a pretty mild 29.3 million when you consider the $170 million budget. I'm not too surprised though. I was worried about this one last week, but I've heard that the reviews are surprisingly good. Kind of the opposite of Scary Movie. Scary Movie made the money, but I've heard the reviews are mixed at best, while Masters of the Universe underperformed, but the reviews have been surprisingly solid. At #3, we've got Backrooms. This is a 68% drop, pretty steep. It's still A24's biggest domestic release ever, and it made tons of money because the budget was only $10 million, but interesting that it dropped off. I wonder if it was just opening weekend hype and why it doesn't have the legs that Obsession does. I ended up seeing it this weekend, and I'm always going to be honest with you guys, I was a little disappointed. Maybe that's just because there was so much hype around it and my expectations were too high, but the film was definitely a unique concept, and I just felt like the story was kind of underdeveloped and I was wanting a little bit more out of it, but maybe that's just me. At number 4, maybe again the most interesting story, Obsession with 25.6 million, just barely under Backrooms. And the craziest part, this is its first drop in week 4. That's absolutely nuts. This is the biggest fourth weekend ever for a horror film, passing The Blair Witch Project, and it's solidified itself as Focus Features' highest grossing film worldwide. I still haven't seen it yet, I'm gonna make it there. I'm wondering now if this thing is probably better than Backrooms. For it to be hanging around this long and have that type of word of mouth, it's gotta be pretty good. At number 5, we've got a really interesting one. The Amazing Digital Circus, The Last Act. I did not know much about this one, but apparently it's like a 4-day Fathom event type thing for the finale of a animated series that actually started on YouTube. So here's another example of an internet property pulling audiences to the theaters. And then coming in at 6 through 10, we've got Mandalorian and Grogu, down 59%. Michael with 7.7 million, down 35%. And we've got The Breadwinner, Pressure, and Devil Wears Prada 2. So I have to mention that I also saw Power Ballad this weekend, and I was kind of disappointed it didn't crack the top 10. I have a feeling I know why though after seeing the film. It's rated R, and I don't think it necessarily needed to be. If it had been PG-13, it might have had a way better shot at cracking the top 10. It's a fun little film, you should go see it. All right, now it's time for our industry stories, and this first story actually kind of follows up on our Universal conversation from earlier, but now we're talking about Netflix. While Universal is using theatrical commitment as a tool to recruit directors, Netflix is pretty clear that they're in a different business. Dan Lin, the chairman of Netflix, put it like this: "There is a group of filmmakers who still want theatrical. Those are filmmakers that we've accepted we just won't work with." I think that's a pretty bold thing to say for the head of a studio or a streaming platform. Refusing to work with directors who value the theatrical experience might not be the best strategy. I don't know. What do you all think? Do you think that audiences care about this, or is it mostly just filmmakers? Let me know in the comments. Moving on, Lionsgate says AI will save tens of millions. Chairman Michael Burns spoke at a press conference in New York this week and was straightforward about the studio's direction on AI. AI is going to save us tens of millions of dollars a year. It's like Moore's Law on crack. Burns described AI being used for specific shots, previewing projects, and even budgeting. Lionsgate has partnered with AI firm Runway since 2014. Burns even floated the idea of the AI company eventually acquiring Lionsgate. Like I've said before, I'm not completely against AI. I think it's fine for logistics and planning, but this guy sounds like he might be a little too into it. Moving on to our third story, Mr. Irrelevant gets a Christmas release after near-perfect test scores. For those who don't know, this is the story of John Tuggle, a running back who was the last pick in the 1983 NFL Draft. It stars David Cornsweet, and it's directed by Jonathan Levine. So apparently, the studio, after some test screenings, has pretty high confidence because they gave this film a Christmas Day release. They don't just do that for any film. This had to have really great scores. Those screenings saw a score of 95 among men over 35, and with an incredibly rare perfect 100 score among women over 35, and a 92 overall. With a $30 million budget, this is exactly the type of movie that I want to see more of, and it's amazing that it's testing so well and getting a release on Christmas Day. All right, now let's move on to this week's trailer. For our trailer of the week, we're going to look ahead to the end of the month with the final trailer for Supergirl. Oh wow, they're giving us Superman right off the bat. Okay. I like that they're also showing that this is like completely different. This is like galactic, like space stuff. This is giving Guardians of the Galaxy to me. I know James Gunn didn't direct it, but still, I don't know why it's giving Guardians. Oh no, Crypto. Don't do anything to him. She gonna go John Wick on you. Oh, she is going John Wick. Oh, and here's Jason Momoa. Oh, he looks great. He looks great. Okay, I'm into it. I really feel like this is, I mean, the other trailers haven't looked bad, but this is the first one that's like really got me. I'll go see this. Like, this looks fun. To me, this is probably the best trailer yet for this. This just feels like Guardians. Okay, but the action looks cool. Really cool. The speed ramped fighting here at the end. Ooh, the laser vision. Okay. This looks pretty good. Does this final trailer make you more excited for Supergirl? All right, let's move on to what's coming this weekend. All right, first up is the big one. I'm going to be seeing it. We watched the trailer last week. Spielberg's Disclosure Day. The review embargo officially lifts on Tuesday, but the reactions from critics who've seen it already have been really solid, basically unanimous. Bill Bria of Slash Film says, Disclosure Day is the weirdest movie Spielberg's ever made. Breathtaking compositions, David Koepp's script is one big high-wire act. Emily Blunt's most accomplished performance, John Williams' best score in years. Riveting, moving stuff. Man, I'm stoked for this one. Spielberg, Universal, an original sci-fi film. I don't think it's going to disappoint, but what do y'all think? Will it make $50 million? It's about $115 million budget if I'm remembering right, so we'll see what happens. Next up, we've got Stop That Train. This is a comedy with RuPaul, and it's directed by Adam Shankman. The film was shot in 19 days, which is really interesting. Minimal tracking available though, so I don't think it'll be anywhere near the top spot. Then we have a fun outlier, The Furious, which is a Hong Kong martial arts thriller from Lionsgate. This, to me, it reminds me of The Raid. It actually has some of the cast that were in The Raid, and it only took $20 million to make, so I'll be rooting for this one. And that's it for this week's episode. Remember to subscribe if you want weekly box office breakdowns, industry news, trailer reactions, and everything in between. I'll be back next week, and we'll break down how Disclosure Day did. Till then, see y'all at the movies.